downtime between sessions out on the road, done an assessment with someone this morning. So I just want to go into a little bit more detail about what a CBTA assessment looks like. Right? How does a CBTA assessment get created? Right now, it's not just a case of we give you a headset and then we send you around a course, and as long as you're looking good, you're all good to go. It's actually a very regulated test route that we move you around. We design a route based on the mandatory tasks that are given to us by the Transport Agency, and we have to design a route that includes all those mandatory tasks. Now, your test starts where we meet you at the start of that test route, and then we conduct you around that route by saying things like, at the next road on the left, turn left, at the next road on the right, turn right. So you're not going to have to know street names if you're doing one of these assessments. It's just, you get the directions just like you would from a GPS. Now, while you're being conducted around that test route, and the test to go from your learners to your restricted is about an hour long, and the test to go from your restricted on your full is about half an hour long. The difference being that in the test to go from your restricted to your full, you can only have about half as many errors. All right, so they're pretty much equally challenging. Right? When we meet you at the start of that test route, we'll set you up. We'll do some paperwork. We'll set you up with an intercom of some type so that we can give you those directions as we travel around. And we'll conduct you around the course by giving you those instructions. Now, at all times during that ride, you will be doing one of this list of things. You'll be moving into traffic, or you'll be moving out of traffic. You'll be travelling on straights. You'll be dealing with curves. You'll be dealing with intersections. You may be overtaking, potentially you may not be. It doesn't always happen on a test ride, but sometimes you will have the opportunity to overtake, and then you should. And you'll be turning back. Now, turning back is when you're going down a road and your assessor says to you, when it's safe, turn back and go back the way we've come. Now, that's basically to check your confidence on the bike that you can turn it at low speed with good observation, good communication, and good positioning on the road, and good control of the bike. So while you're doing all of these things, this is the list of things that you're actually marked on, right? So you're marked for where you're looking, and these are called competencies, all right? Now, on the Transport Agency website, there's actually a document called the CBTA course guide, which you can go to, and on page 7 and 8 of that document, you can find this list. All right, so this is it's publicly available information. There's no secrets about this. So what you're being marked on are this list of competencies, all right? So you're marked for where you're looking, so your head and eyes up, looking in your intended direction of travel at all times. You're going to be scanning and using your mirrors, so that's your scanning as you go down the road. And how often do you use your mirrors? All right, you've got to meet the CBTA standard for that. Your head checks, so there are certain head checks that are mandatory, and there's a bunch of head checks that you'll just do because they're a good idea. Communication, that largely relates to how we indicate, but also how we deal with the indication of other people. So we're giving information, but we're also taking you information, right, from other people. How we use our bike, having been given that information by other people. So that's a communication thing. Consideration and courtesy gets marked. Positioning. Now, positioning is where we put ourselves on the road to deal with various scenarios. So, in a car, if we're in a lane, pretty much we're in the middle of the lane. Well, on a motorbike, we can be out to the right of the lane, out to the left of the lane, or we can be right in the middle of the lane. And it very much depends on what's going on around us. We have to choose the best position relative to what's going on around us. Speed management, that largely relates to how we gain and reduce speed when we're coming into high or lower speed areas, but not exclusively that. It's how you use speed in general, make good progress, right? Using speed to make good progress without breaking the rules, right? Now, if there's ever an entire time in your life when you actually stick to the speed limit, it's going to be during the driving test. Right? Now, progression, that's another category of marking. Progression, that relates to you making good decisions as to when to take gaps and when not to take gaps. We want you to be confident and competent. So we don't want you driving around like a super conservative person. We want you to make good progressive decisions about when to make progress. Stability and smoothness, now that largely relates to how you actually operate the bike. So, the way you use the steering, if you're constantly stalling the bike, or if you're constantly hashing the gear changes, or constantly skidding the back wheel when you're coming into intersections, then that's really a stability and smoothness thing. Big ticket item for me, anyone who's done a course with me knows that a big ticket item for me is following distance, because that is just immensely important in terms of the benefit that it gives to you if you maintain that good following distance, right? So we're going to be at all times, and I'm going to say, you don't just need to be using a good following distance when you're on a driving test. You should be using a good following distance all the time, because it makes a huge difference to your outcomes of your riding. You also get marked on anything else that you do that's illegal. Now, anything that you do that's illegal and is a little bit dangerous, that can be what's called an immediate failure. So if you ride through a stop sign without actually stopping, if you ride in excess of the speed limit for any duration, there's a number, if you fall off the bike, if you hit something, there's a number of things that can lead to you immediately failing a CBTA assessment. But you can pop onto the Transport Agency website and actually get access to this information anyway. I would encourage you to do that. Now, the other way you can get the information about this stuff is just talk to us. Hop onto the website, motorcycletraining.co.nz. Get in touch with us, speak to Holly. You can email us, speak to Holly or Dan, or for that matter, get in touch with any of us. We can give you the information about how these tests work. The best way to prepare yourself for these assessments, by the way, is to attend a Ride Forever course. All right. So on the Ride Forever courses, the syllabus that we cover is related to the delivery of this information. So it's covered in a Ride Forever course because it's fundamentally good motorcycle practice, and it's examined in a CBTA assessment because it's good motorcycle practice. It's how we want people to be riding their bikes, to get the most enjoyment out of it and to be as safe as you possibly can on the bike. All right. So that's the summary of how a CBTA assessment works. Each one of these competencies is a subject of its own, and that gets expanded in full on your Ride Forever courses. So I'd encourage you to get along and get involved in those Ride Forever courses before you line yourself up for an assessment. Now, ultimately, people who've been riding for a long time might just look at this and say, well, I've been riding the bike for a long time. I'll just go along and do an assessment. And, by all means, that's an option that you've got. But the reality is, if you do that, you won't know what the standard is for looking. You won't know what the standard for use of mirrors and scanning is. You probably won't know what the standard for head checks is. You just don't know what the standards are that are expected of you in regard to these competencies. So I'd encourage you to think about attending that Ride Forever course before you line yourself up for an assessment. It's a really good way for you to get your head around what's required to get through that assessment, but also to get that information as to what's fundamental good motorcycle skills. Okay, signing off. I'll continue to pop little videos up that might be of use to you. I might actually cover some of these topics in some detail at some stage. So just tune in from time to time on the Facebook page. Thanks.